Okay, so I got this thing. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring, and I gave you guys these files. I just gave you these random files. When we go to do this, you can use whatever you want. You don't have to use the ones I gave you. And I'm going to take this, and let's hope this computer's set up correctly. Otherwise, I'll have problems. And I just dragged it in here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this pattern, and I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to right-click it and convert to Smart Object. It's also up here somewhere in your file. I always forget where it is, but I always right-click it. Okay. There's one in here where it says Convert to Smart Object somewhere. Okay, so if you look right here on your little thumbnail, there's a little icon there in the bottom right corner, and that's telling you it's a smart object. Now, there's going to be things I can't do in here now. So if you notice, I just grabbed a paintbrush, and look at it, it's giving me this. I'd have to rasterize it before I could proceed, okay? Rasterize a smart object, okay? No, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to bring down this opacity, because I need to see through it, and I'm also going to go a little bigger just to cover the whole car. Hang on. Let's try that. And then I'm going to go up here to Edit, Free Transform, Distort. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to kind of get it to follow the car a little bit. And I'm going to do this very quickly, so I'm not really dialing it in the way I normally would. And I'm going to pull this up a little bit to sort of wrap it around this form a little bit, okay? I'm just going to do a little. I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to go, and I'm going to make a layer mask on here. I'm just going to really quickly, now make sure that you use your brush, not an eraser, okay? And there's a couple ways I could do this, but I'm just going to do it this way because it'll be fine. And in a minute, I'm going to continue the interior of this a little bit. And I'm going to drop my opacity a little more because I need to see the edges a little better. There. So I'm basically just clipping this car out of here. I need it even lower. I can't see the edges. Yeah, that's better. And what will happen is if you try and do this with your eraser, it's going to come in and go, you can't do that because I can't directly edit this image. And what that means is that you got it as a smart object, which will make sense here in a minute. So I can't directly edit it because, and you'll see why here in just a second. It does something very specific, which again you can use for all sorts of things. So what I'm doing basically here is just creating a mask. And again, this is going to be a really sloppy selection, which I would normally never do. Let's get rid of this out here. Let's get rid of this. I probably should have lowered. I should have lowered the. Well, you guys, when you work on these, you should probably lower this file to 72. We don't need it to be 300. I think it's 300. That's why it's so slow. And then I'm going to get rid of this. And then. Now, using a layer mask is not just the reason that this won't let you do it, it won't let me directly edit it, but I can come in here and I can paint out all these areas that I want to maintain Like all this in here wouldn't get any of this. And also up here. And this is probably going to be a really bad selection when I'm done with it. I'll just get this window and that'll be enough. So let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got. Let's pull this open. Let's turn this off for a second. Let's unlock that. Let's pull it all the way up. Yeah, it's really sloppy. So let's get rid of a little of this. And what I was saying was, and the good thing about doing it with the layer mask is that I can paint in all my screw-ups and paint them back out. So I could come in here and flip this and paint this back in because I want that painted in. Flip it, paint this out. Oops, that's too much. Flip it, paint it back in. Flip it, paint that out. Paint this out. Paint that out. And paint all this out. And again, it's not going to be a great selection, but that's okay. Okay, let's get rid of this. That's close enough. Now, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to find me, this is on a white car, so usually that'll work, but that's not working, so let's try a different one. I'm going to go through here and try and find an overlay that looks good. And you can see if I had a cleaner selection, that one actually wouldn't be too bad. I just need a cleaner selection. And usually on white, multiply works. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to try one more. I would probably have to lighten this up a little bit. I'm not going to, just for the sake of what we're doing right now. Now, if okay, this little icon down here, or I can double click this little thumbnail, and it opens this up, this little sublayer. Okay, so what this sublayer is our original file. Okay, so because when I opened this file and I said create a smart object, it creates a smart object out of that thing, and it retains the memory of that. Okay, so if I take this now, this will probably be too small, but that's okay. And I pop this in this layer. Let's just do this. And I go save. It now will wrap the new thing around this car. Does that make sense? Okay, so what's nice about this is if I'm doing a vehicle, well, it could be a million things, but if I was doing a vehicle design, let's say, I could crank out 15 paint jobs in 10 minutes from my boss or whatever. I could do, usually what I do is I'll do a rusted version of the car for this exercise. I'll do a pattern. I'll do a modern pattern. I'll do maybe a solid color. You know, I just do a bunch of different things, and I can just boom, 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 and crank them out. Okay. Now, the video you guys are going to see where the guy's doing this, one thing he does, and it's not a bad idea, if you're doing a much more complex object like he's doing that you're going to see, he's doing a plane, the one I'm going to give you, right? You might want to put, and you can just keep a pattern, you can just make it, okay? He puts a pattern in there where he's got a checker pattern and he puts numbers on it. And what he does is he drops that in and he sees how it orients on his object from a directional standpoint, okay? So then he can go, oh, it actually follows the form. If I flip it upside down, it follows the form better. So I just have something. It could be arrows. It could just be a bunch of arrows, right? What?
So essentially, when the smart object, it basically becomes its own separate, like I guess you could say, more detailed layer that you can essentially.
It just, all it's doing is it's holding the information. It's just going, if I go, okay, this is what I'm starting with, this is my smart object, then that's sort of a flat file, right? Just untouched. Then I'm doing all this stuff to it, but in the memory it's just seeing, it's basically pulling that and wrapping it, but it's really using this information. The base information that I started with.
And if you mess with that in any way, it can change whatever you have.
Right, but I'm changing it actually in real time in the image.
Right.
I never change it in this, well, the only way I change it in the sublayer, like if I go into the sublayer,
Well, that's how you did it just now, but different.
but if I go into the sublayer now and I go, let's try this. And let's find, let's just use this. Oops. I hit save. I don't even know where this will land. So that's where it lands. Okay? So, you know, I could paint something. I could paint something all over another layer. I could do like a graffiti layer or something and have it, because it's holding, once I map this whole thing onto the surface, I don't have to do it again.
Right, and what you were just saying with the other guy with the numbers and the different patterns was basically kind of like markers on both of them, so like I can draw right here.
Well, he's, okay, so in that video he's doing both wings. So he has that pattern, and then he knows like, oh, the numbers have to start at the fuselage here.
Right.
And in order for me to do the next one, I've got to flip it and orient it this way. Like you might have to flip it or something, right? But that'll just give you a base of like, and then once you know that, you can drop your new pattern on it based on that orientation.
Okay.
So you can do a very complex object, which is what you're going to get, but it's the same process. The process is essentially this. He's just taking it and doing a much more elaborate painting, which I used to do in here, but it's like it takes a long time. So it's better if I just show you the base part of it, and then you can go look at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So let's grab, does that all make sense, you guys? It's pretty simple, right?